In this video, I'm going to do 3 questions from the chapter Quadrilateral, which is based on the properties of parallelogram. So let's begin with the first one here. But what is given here that ABCD, there are 2 parallelogram, right? And what are the names of these parallelogram? They mentioned the name of the parallelogram. One is this, that is ABCD, right? This is a parallelogram. And there's another parallelogram that is this is another parallelogram. These two are given as a parallelogram. And what we need to prove here, that we need to determine, well, angle C is mentioned. As you can see, the angle C here, angle C is given as 55 degrees. So I can mark this angle as 55 degree. Okay, so we have this angle being mentioned as 55 degree. And what we have to find out is determine angle F. This angle is what we have to find out. Now, first of all, you can consider this quadrilateral. I mean, say this parallelogram. But you know that in a parallelogram, opposite angles are equal, right? So I can say that this angle will also be equal to 55 degree. As you can see, opposite angles of parallelogram are equal. Now, if you refer about the other parallelogram, this time I'm going to take the other parallelogram. That means, check this one. In this parallelogram, again, we can use the same properties as the opposite angles of parallelogram are equal. So I can write this angle F is also 55 degree. This is how we will say that this angle is 55 degree. Now let's move to the next question here. In this question, it says that the points P and Q have been taken on the opposite sides of AB and CD. That's very clear that AB and CD are two opposite sides of this, mentioned as a parallelogram, such that AP is equal to CQ. So the length of AP, we have the length of AP is equal to CQ. Right. So what we have to show that AC and PQ bisect each other. AC and PQ. That means we need to prove this is equal to this, and further this is equal to this. So what we are going to do is to prove the two triangle congruent, and the triangles here should be considered is, one is this and the other as this. Now check here. What you can say, first of all, I'll erase this. Let me erase everything. That will bring more clarity as I set the triangle. So here I'm going to prove these two triangles as congruent. And how can we prove these two triangles congruent? Number one, we have these angles. This is equal to this, as they are alternate interior angles, as you can figure out here, that these two sides are parts of parallel, opposite sides of parallelogram, and considering this as the transversal, right? So we can figure out from here that these two are alternate interior angles. Now check here, we are also given that here AB, we know that opposite sides of parallelogram are equal. So AB is equal to CD. If they are equal, then their halves will also be equal. So half of AB should be equal to half of CD. Okay, but then we don't need this, right? We are already given. I just realized that we are already given that length of AP is equal to CQ, right? And further, we can also say that this angle, right? This angle is equal to this angle from the same reason that the reason here remains the same, that alternate interior angles. So you can figure out that two angles here are equal. So these two are equal by alternate, and we have an included side equal. So we'll say that the triangles are congruent. Straight away I can write triangle APM is congruent to triangle CQM. And therefore from CPCT I can say AM is equal to CM, and I can also say that PM is equal to QM. That is what we needed to prove. Well, sometimes this information, even if it is not given that AP is equal to CQ, but then some midpoint has to be given. Anyway, we have done this. Let's move to the last part. So next question is this. Let me erase the remaining portion of this. All right, so we are given what we are given the angles between the two altitudes of a parallelogram through the vertex of an obtuse angle of a parallelogram is 60 degree. Find the angles. Okay, let me first draw the figure that will bring clarity what they are talking about. So let's say if I draw a parallelogram. All right, it needs to be produced a bit. Yeah, it looks like a parallelogram. So we have A, B, C, D is given a parallelogram. The angle between two altitudes. So I'm going to draw two altitude. Say from A, that looks here like you can figure out that this is an obtuse angle A. So if I draw an altitude, let's say this be the altitude over here, and another altitude is drawn over here. So these are altitudes. And the name of the altitude I can take as say AM and CN. And this angle is mentioned as how much? 60 degree. And what we have to find out is all angles of the parallelogram. So let me first set the triangle parallelogram I'm talking about. Let's say this one, not a parallelogram, this quadrilateral. Right. Is this quadrilateral? What you can see here that here we know three angles. So what are the angles we know here? Number one, we know this angle as 60 degree. Right. And we also know that this angle is 90 as it is an altitude. And we know that sum of four angles of a quadrilateral is 360 degree. So if I do so, what I will say here, right. So this I can say that 60 plus 90 plus 90 plus angle C is equal to 360 degree. So now angle C will come as what is 180 minus 90 is 180, 360 minus 180 is 180 minus 6, that is 120. We got the value of C, and this is how much we got as 120 degree. But then we have to find all angles. So what we know that here opposite angles of parallelogram are equal. So angle A, the whole angle A, right? This whole angle A is equal to angle C, that is 120. Further, we know that adjacent angles of a parallelogram are supplementary. So I can say angle A plus angle L, B and C is also fine. So angle B plus angle C is equal to 180 degree. One more time, what we know that adjacent angles of parallelogram are supplementary. So over here, you know the value of angle B. So you can know we need to find angle B. Angle C is 120. So we can say angle B is 180 minus 120, that is 60. And so will be angle D, as D and B are opposite angles and opposite angles of parallelogram are equal. So angle D will come out to be 60. So we can figure out it is 60, 120, 60 and 120 are the angles, four angles of parallelogram.